Good evening, welcome to another episode of Easy 8's Online Painting Club. My name's Danny, it says it right down there at the bottom of the screen. I hope you've been well. I've had a cracking week. It's been a very busy week at work for me. So all the things that I wanted to get done throughout the week since last week's show haven't been able to do, but I did get home early today to get a head start on doing a few bits and pieces. So yeah, it's been a really challenging week at work. Still, everybody who I work with still all falling down poorly with COVID, which is really upsetting because they're a nice team and they deserve way better. But they're all doing really well. The problem is that the people that are coming out from isolation, because my company says you still got to isolate, when they come back to work, immediately another one goes away. So it's been a really challenging week at work. So it's been, eating my personal time up quite a bit, really. And just to make matters worse, someone fell over at work and they broke their arm so bad that they needed to be in overnight surgery. So hey, if you're watching, very unlikely, but if you are watching, all the love to you. Hope you recover quickly. So it's just been very demanding. I hope you guys have had a brilliant week. If you are doing any projects this evening, do let me know. Drop it in over there in the live chat. If you are new here to this show, this isn't a tutorial or anything like that at all. This is literally a place to come and hang out with your friends, make some new friends if you like, and just kind of chat about the projects that you're doing. A social club, a painting club that's online. Who knew? Crazy stuff. So yeah. If you like what we do, then consider following us on Facebook, on Instagram, even join us on Discord at the end of the show, where loads of people usually come along and just chat complete rubbish at the end of a show. And I'm going to be on there for hours this evening because I've got nothing else to do. So it's a great opportunity to kind of chill out with you guys, play some video games, do some painting. I'm definitely going to get drunk because that's a great thing to do this evening. So yeah, if you like what we do, consider liking us, following us, and even subscribing to the show because every little bit really helps. We're up to 45 subscribers now. 45. Wow, cool. We go up sometimes, we go down sometimes, but 45 I think is an all-time high. So thank you so much for subscribing, even if you're just doing it to kind of help me out and you don't really like what we do here. I really appreciate it nonetheless. If you've already subscribed, maybe share it with a friend. Tell some people at work. Kind of get word around that Easy 8 is out there. And I'm looking for some more friends. That would be great. I'm not like a lonely hearts column or anything, but you know what I mean. Get it out there. That'd be great. So yeah, this evening I'm going to be finishing off a little bit from what I've been doing over the last couple of weeks, which is painting up my little 15mm tanks. I'm hoping to pretty much have those done today. There's still going to be little bits and pieces that I'm going to be doing over time, but I don't want to I always say it every week, I don't want to just keep on doing the same thing every week just because it gets a bit boring for you guys just watching me paint the same tank over and over again because I'm not very good. And I'm not very quick, so I'm often painting like the same rubbishy bit over and over again. So yeah, I'm quite keen to just kind of crack on. I've got a few other bits and pieces that if I do get through these nice and fast, some things that I can at least start planning for next week. Before we get started, I want to apologise for last week's show where the camera for the workbench that shows you normally what I do down here just stopped working. And I had a feeling it was because I've got multiple cameras of the same type and there was a conflict on the computer and it just didn't know which one to use at any given time. So after the show, I spent some time on Discord with Kez, who's over there right now in the chat. Spent hours trying to work out a fix and we renamed the cameras and got them all mapped out properly, and now, touch wood and the other wooden things around here, they actually work fine. So thank you, Kez, for spending all that time with me. I know I said it to you last week in person, but on the show, I suppose it's nicer, isn't it, to say thank you very much for helping me get that sorted out. I now actually have a third one. So I've got one here that you're looking at right there, this one. I've got this one right here, and I've got another one just over there, and I normally have to switch this one to over here so that I can sit over there at that computer and enjoy some time with you playing games on Discord, or just kind of chatting over there, or even just chilling out with my friends outside of the realms of Easy 8. And yeah, it's just a faff to have to do it every single time. But there's the spring sale over at Amazon right now, 40% off, so I bought another one. So Kess, if you're around at the end of the show, you could you help me rename that one too? That would be great. Thanks very much. Because I plugged that one in earlier on and it ruined everything and it all went wrong. Oh, the back of a chair's come off. I'm getting excited. So yeah, that would be great. Kes says, still working on what is going on with this chair? Let's sort that out. God, rubbish, crazy. It's an old chair, it's falling apart, it's got a big rug on it just to make it more comfortable. Kes says, still working on Bautech scenery. Jeff says, Easy 8 Lonely Club. That's sad. Yeah, I didn't. None of this is scripted, don't know if you can tell. Kes says, no worries, thanks very much. It's probably going to be a quieter week over there because I've had a couple of messages from people who normally come over and watch saying that actually they're suffering from COVID and they're really poorly and just don't have the energy, which is absolutely fine. Watch it on replay if you really want to. And of course there's people over in different time zones. So there's John Takas over at Out of This World Minis and Models, who's over in stateside, so can't watch it right now because probably either working or sleeping. But thanks for your support. John. If you don't know who John is, there's a link to John's YouTube channel just down there in the description to this video. Out of This World Models and Minis, just does whatever he wants and he just likes to paint stuff and he's just a cool hobby painter and he's got a wicked channel and it's really kicking off at the moment. He's like just a couple of people away from his 200 subscribers. Well done, John. Super proud of you, mate. It's a really hard gig over here on YouTube. I mean, we just do it as a hobby. It's a bit of fun really for our friends and whatever, but it's nice to have that, so well done. You really deserve it. And also is just kind of getting some really good views on some of his videos. Excellent. And I think that there might be the threat of someone doing a Godzilla soon, John. That would be cool. Yeah, so go and have a check out at John at Easy 8. Easy 8? Hey, John, you're working at Easy 8 now. I misspeak. I'm just going to stop. Right. Okay, cool. Let's go over to the workbench and see what I've been doing over here. Mostly been drinking tea. Going to have some of that right now. Lovely. And the miniatures that I was painting last week are my little German tanks. So I've got King Tiger, got the Jagdpanther, got the Jagdtiger, I've got the I've just painted them so I'm going to be careful with them, the Panzer IV, and I've got the Stug 3. And what I was doing last week was just painting. Well, they were all in a sort of the Dunkelgelb colour, the dark yellow, and what I was doing last week was trying to avoid using the enamel washes on them, which I really like, but I think they're just a little bit time consuming, a little bit faffy for small miniatures like this, where you just kind of want to get them done fast. So a friend of mine who sometimes watches the show, Stafford, might be on a bit later on, recently came round to play a game of this with me, Water Tanker, and he had loads of German vehicles and he just used good old Agrax Earthshade. So last week I was playing around with this stuff, watering it down a little bit with Lamy Medium, which I've made up a little mix just here. Because I started just before the show started, and what I'm trying to do now is just go in and around the sort of the wheels and the track areas, because I didn't do those last week and it looks a little bit daft when they're not done. So here's the top and here's the side here. Cool. So that's pretty much all I'm doing. Last week I did say that if you compare this style to the old style, one is noticeably much brighter. And that's because I'm kind of sludge washing here. I'm being quite careful about how I apply it. I'm not too careful. But with this old sort of method. Oh, I've got hiccups again. I always get the hiccups at the beginning of the show. It's kind of weird. When I do it this way with the enamel, it just seems to have a very different effect. So I don't want them all to be really, really dark. So I think it was Jeff that was saying last week that I should probably give them a bit of a dry brush. I don't really like dry brushing too much because I'm not very good at it, and if you're not very good at it, then it can come out quite chalky. There's ways around that, and actually quite near in the future on Easy 8 I'm going to be doing a whole feature about dry brushing and how to avoid the common problems with it, but I don't have that stuff right now. So if I do some dry brushing, I'm going to keep it really, really light, just to maybe pick out the very top edges of the details, just to make them pop it even more, just to kind of really enhance that contrast. And I think it'll be worth it. All of these are just Dunkelgelb, dark yellow. They don't have any of the camouflage colours on them, apart from this bad boy here, which does. And I just decided to use that one colour all over it. And even though it's very, very dark, I think it's really, really cool. It's quite brooding and sinister. I really like it. In the future, I might try and do different, slightly brighter versions of the colours under there to kind of make them stand out a bit more, those camouflage colours. Or I could even try using Seraphim Sepia, which is a much warmer, a lighter, a bit more transparent of a shade compared to the darker Agrax Earth shade. So I've got some options ahead of me. Right now, just gonna kind of paint them up. Jeff says very, very light dry brush, very light. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I've got some really soft brushes here. Just gonna put a tiny, tiny amount of paint down and just literally just kind of flick it over the edges. Just one pass quickly over each of those tanks. Even this one, even the one with the camouflage on there, I know that the colour, if I was to use the dark yellow colour, it still, I think, will work on here. Again, they're small models, it doesn't really matter that much, I don't think. Anyway, I'm really enjoying this cup of tea, bear with me. Yum. Right, so let me get stuck in over here. I've just done the Panzer IV, and it's a little bit too watered down. I did a virtually a 50-50 mix of Agrax and Lamy medium, and I actually used droppers to make sure that I got a very precise mix. Last week I was just kind of dunking the brush in and trying to get like a sort of a measure that way, but I was just quite interested to see what the ratio would be. So if I put in like another 5 drops or so, oh, it all kind of came out really fast there. The science has gone out of the window. Yeah, but it's roughly now a 25-75 mix, 75% colour to 25% medium. Give it a little mix around, because I just think it was a little bit watery. It wasn't really filtering that colour very much. That's kind of, I was trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone with this effect last week, and that is to get the details kind of showing through, getting that pin washing done, if you like, and then also filtering that base colour as well. And on this particular tank here, I actually struggled with it quite a bit because it's got really large flat surfaces with very little detail on. So this one's a little bit rubbish, actually. Not too keen on the way this one came out. So maybe later on, I'll give it a repaint, come back to it, do some effects on it perhaps. I'm not really sure. Already, I'm much happier with the mix that this little mix of wash and medium is doing. The other one just wasn't really clinging to the surface. Too much medium in there. More comments going in. Jeff says, yeah, even the camo one. Yeah, I think so. I think it's, you don't have to dry brush the same colour to really get a decent effect out of it. It will, I think it will just enhance the whole thing. I have really enjoyed painting these tanks. They're really quite enjoyed to paint. But this one here, just those large surfaces, was just hard to do. I was having a bit of a mare last week as well. There were obviously a lot of technical issues with the show and the camera not working, so there were some sort of background stresses, and I wonder if by the time I got to this tank here, those stresses were starting to show in my painting. I'm literally being quite haphazard. I mean, I'm being quite heavy-handed. That's the better word. Heavy-handed. Just kind of getting it in there, treating it like a bit of a sludge wash. But because the medium's in there, it really breaks down that surface tension of the paint, stops it from drying so quickly, and really allows me to kind of come back to it after a little bit of brushwork. If I started over here, a little bit of brushwork all the way down, I can come back now and sort of move the paint around a little bit, where if it was just watered down paint, it would behave much different, much more differently or like I said, it's unscripted. All right, leave me alone. Okay, come back to this side here. Yeah, pretty happy with that. Now there's this little bit right in here, which isn't really all that bad. You can't really see it, but if you catch it at the right angle, it's still quite pale in there. And I didn't really think about all of this when I was making them. I could have shadow sprayed all of that in there. Stafford a couple of weeks ago was saying to me, either on the show or on Discord, saying, why don't you make them, put them all together, but keep the tracks separate. That way you can kind of paint them all that little bit easier. And like, you're absolutely right. I don't know why. I just got excited. I put them all together because they're so small. I could have just put them all together really, really quickly. And that's how that went. So yeah, next time I make them, I won't glue the track pieces on, so I can kind of get a shadow effect in there and not have to worry about it all. So in a minute I'm going to choose a better brush, I think, for really getting in there. This one's long enough, but it's a really nice brush. I don't want to kind of ruin it by shoving it in there. Yeah, so there's that one. Anyway, Jagdpanther done. Oh, camo would have been a good idea for the Jagdpanther, just to break up the slab sides. Yes, that's a really good point. I can always come back to it. I can always have another go. But because I'm playing a lot of water tanker at the moment, I just thought it would be nice to kind of get them all sort of at least looking kind of cool, you know. But yeah, you're right. I can come back to that one. So the Stug, lovely little Stug, gorgeous little tank that is. Quite deep recess in the Panzer III chassis here, so I could have put quite a heavy shadow effect in there when I was playing around with all those modulation colours. Again, small models don't really mind what they really come out like. Now I've still got to do a lot of work on the tracks, but that should hopefully go pretty quick later on. If I'm going to dry brush them, then I'm going to probably hit the tracks with a dry brush by accident anyway. So I'm not going to do anything with that right now. That's one of those little jobs that I'm going to do a little bit later, as and when I get some time. And also, one of the things that I'm going to have to keep on coming back to, if I show, for example, on the inside of this tank here, the big teeth between the wheels on the actual tracks. Here's an example you can see quite clearly in there, although my camera's not auto-focusing. The big teeth that kind of go through between all the wheels, they would normally be silvery because they'd probably be worn down from use, and that's how I do it on the bigger builds. But on these little tanks, I really don't think that effect is going to be very good. I think it will just stand out far too much. So I'm going to go in and paint them the same colour as the tracks, but it's still going to be quite fiddly, so I've got a small brush. I'm going to come back in for that later on, tackle that later. Run out of wash, so don't know why I'm shaking the medium. It's literally got no colour in it. I just like to shake things. So let's get a little dropper here. Looks like it's got paint in it, but it is dry. Oh, sack up a couple of drops of that, and I'll put 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 drops of that will be fine. Excuse me. And where's my Agrax? Here's my Agrax. And I said about 75%-ish. So if I just did 9 drops of this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That very quickly fills up that little pot in there. So it just goes to show you, they don't need an awful lot of paint if you're kind of mixing your own stuff. Just a couple of drops goes a long way. Okay, give it a bit of a mix. That's not a cat hair, that's actually one of my hairs. I recently shaved my head, and for some reason I'm just finding hairs everywhere. Didn't even shave my head in this room. Did a really bad job on it as well, but who cares what I look like? I'm really not vain at all. Okay, so got some more mixture here. This might be ever so slightly different consistency, so it might behave a little bit different. But it's still good enough. Get some real nice shadow in there. Just making sure that I don't miss any bits of the yellow colour, because if you miss it with a stain, it's really obvious, and then you've got to come back, and it's quite difficult to then match it in. That's the problem I had with the Jagdpanther, is I wasn't getting good coverage and I had to keep on coming back, and then I was ruining it by doing that. And that's why I didn't want to do the teeth on the tracks silver, because even just being left by, you know, in their base color of yellow, they really stood out. And if I painted them all silver, I think it would just be, I think it would be too much. And I'm really not that good at painting silver at the moment, so yeah, just leave it. Okay, back to the Panzer IV. I've done the surface in there, but do you remember I just said it didn't look, cat hair, it didn't look very strong, so I'm actually going to come back in and give it another pass. I don't even have a cat anymore. Her hair's still in the studio. It's going to be here for a long time, I think. That's much better. I actually want the colour in the sort of wheel area to be darker than the rest of it, because it's all going to be grimy and dirty and shadowed and stuff. So actually, by having a little bit heavier in here, it's probably going to do me a favour. That's better. Still got to paint all the tyres on the road wheels and on the return rollers. It's a really fiddly job on a tank this size. Like I said last week, Corvus Black by Citadel is a really good colour, I feel, for doing tyres. So if you're doing tyres, do consider it. It's a great one. Have I got everywhere here? I think I have. There is some pooling on this tank. I quite like it. On the turret there, I think it's quite cool. The turret isn't pushed all the way down on this one because it stops it from sticking to itself while it's painting. Normally that's an effect that I would avoid. It isn't the best. Even all the way around here it's still quite patchy. I can try and blend it in a little bit. See if this does anything. We'll revisit that tank in a minute. Okay, let's have a look at the two big tanks. One of them I did last week. I think it was this one here. Yeah, I did. And this one here, I didn't. So let's have a little look at him. You can see all the places that I've missed on the tracks in there. Again, it was just a quick paint the tracks a little bit, just giving a little bit of character while I was painting it, really. Could do with a bit of staining underneath on this one. Not necessary, very rarely ever see underneath them, but more than anything it's just peace of mind that I've completed the model. It's that ADD kicking in again. Elements of OCD. Gotta know I finished it. Run out of wash. So here we go. Not gonna make as much this time. If I put in, I'll put in 2 drops. Go 2 drops of medium. I'll put in what, 6 drops? Yeah, 6 drops of the colour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. Measuring it that way gives me, you know, consistency with my mixtures, so that my paints will always come out pretty much the same. I mean, it's an obvious reason, but it really helps make them all look very, very similar. The only thing that's different is how I actually paint them and how the paint goes on. And when it comes to something so random as a sludge wash, they all will be quite different. But because I'm making it look like like a detail wash, like a pin wash, and an effect, like a weathering effect at the same time, I'm cool with it being quite random. I'm actually kind of counting on it a little bit. Okay, now that I've got the wheels in there done, I'm just going to do the underside. Some of the tanks I did the undersides on, others I didn't. Make sure that I've done the backs of them, because some of those backs I did miss. And just like the wheel areas, when I'm painting the backs, I do like them to be quite grubby, because the back of the tank is all oily and greasy and gross. Okay. A quick look at this one here, just to make sure that I got everything. Occasionally I miss a little bit, like on the end of the cannon. There's a really bright part there. Stafford has joined us. Hola, sorry I was late. No worries, Stafford. We're always here. You can always watch us back on replay. Thanks for coming along. I hope you're doing well, mate. We'll talk about you today earlier on the show, talk about the effects that you were doing on your little tanks, how that's inspired me on these, and I'm just trying to get as much done as I can to not necessarily have them finished, but at least at a point where they look like that they could be. Yeah, I think we're getting on quite well there. I've done the wheels on that one. There's very little left on that one to do. Now I could go back and do this one a bit more, because this is the one I used the wash on, the enamel wash, and I didn't really like it very much. So I think, do you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take his turret off, because it's quite a tight turret, being a Zvezda model, and I'm just going to give it a go. Why not? Start at the back there, because it's going to be quite heavy there. I might end up making a bit more wash as well, because I've got to do a whole tank. So not only have I got my camera sorted out this week, but I'm hoping that you'll notice today that I shouldn't have any looping music themes. So I don't know why, but somewhere in my hardware upgrade, when I transferred my music files over, some music files got copied, and they got put right beside their previous partner. It only copied the ones that had the Andesat symbol in the title, and then it changed it with an underscore. So they were very similar names and identical sounds. So yeah, don't know why it did that, but I thought there must be something to do with my music files. It's only a bit of background stuff, just because I'm sure you probably get bored of listening to my voice all the time. So yeah, so we're looking at better music and better camera qualities today. Staff says paint PTO on the bottoms. I could. I don't want to. Unless you have got source material saying that tanks that ever did that. If found this way up, please return to its original position. Jeff says, thing is, with little models like these, its details can be lost on the table. You almost want cartoon black lines on them to make any detail pop. Yeah, I really agree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 for luck. There we go. You can buy these little pipettes on Amazon in bulk. Like I struggled to not buy them in bulk. I only wanted a few, knowing that they would just overwhelm my studio space. So I just bought a pack of 10, and they were so cheap. It was my account barely noticed it. But you can buy them like 50s and 100s. So if you do want to be able to measure your paints and things with a pipette, just head on over to Amazon, because you can get loads of stuff like that out there. Now with this, I'm probably going to have some sort of artifacting from the previous effects paints that I've put on here. That's okay. It might actually lend something to it. I'm not doing it this way deliberately, obviously. I'm just trying to cover over that paint job. But if it happens, I'm sure it won't look bad. We'll find out. Just trying to stop that coffee staining. So just coming in with a slightly less damp brush and just touching the bristles into the paint pools. A couple of little streaky lines there, so I can just wipe them. That's one of the really good benefits of using the medium, is that if it does start to get big streaks, you can just kind of brush it out, and it stops it from setting so quickly. Here, for example, just where I kind of just roughly threw the brush over it, I can just go back in again, give it a bit more paint on there. Use a bit of tissue there to absorb some of the paint out of the brush. Got a bit of dry lumpy stuff there. Let's get rid of that. It's looking pretty gross on the end there. See the beam. Oh, I'll just drop it on the tanks. I told you I'm not very good. I'm such a klutz. Doesn't look bad already. I don't mind it going heavier on the back. Like I say, it's an area where it's going to be really greasy and oily and gross and just dirty. So having a bit of extra down the back there will always make it look better. I might even come back for a second pass in there in a bit. There we go. You can see all the streaks from the previous job I did, where I was really struggling with that enamel, and it was on this tank where I realised this is really hard to achieve on these small tanks. The effect that I was looking for. Oh, come back. Okay, going to come back to that one in just a second. I sort of dried a bit more, and I can do inside the wheel areas. Just like I'm doing the turret here. Going to hold on to the cannon piece for a second. I need something to pop it on, so I've got my bottle of thinner just here. Just going to put him off camera, so in a minute I can just kind of rest him on the top. Thought it was a slightly wobbly cannon then, but it's not. It's just moving around my fingers. settle for a little bit, and then I'm just trying to avoid these big pools, reposition some of it so I'm getting an even spread. I quite liked it on the Panzer IV, but it was a little bit uneven. There we go. Take the rest out of the brush. Can come back a little bit now. Let that set for a minute. I'll just pop them over there. That looks really cool. Yeah, I'm into that. So back over to the other tanks. There were some that I thought I might want to go over with another pass. Can have a little look at the Panzer IV. Actually looking okay. No second pass needed there. The Stug. Yep, again, happy with that. Those guys can just dry. They're pretty much done. The Jagd Panther. There's this little bit at the back over here that I just don't like it. I don't even know why I'm putting the brush on it. Maybe I should stop. What to do? Like Jeff says, maybe I'll come back in and do some camouflage on them at a later date. This looks quite patchy. Didn't do a very good job on this one here. Never mind. I'll just move him over there for now. You go over there. Cheers, pal. Bye. Right. Little tanks. Pretty much done. I can't really go in and do anything on the wheels or anything yet. I can't really do anything on the tanks yet. On the tracks, sorry, because they are still. I could do them on this one. On this one here. Could do some work on the tracks. Do you know? Before I even did that, I should probably do some dry brushing. So let's put this brush away for a minute. I'm going to come back to that one for the other Panther in just a minute. But they all need to dry. Sip of tea. So, some dry brushes. I want a really soft, rounded brush tip for dry brushing. I've got some really nice sable brushes, but I don't really like using these for dry brushing, even though I'll probably get quite a good effect on there. Let's have a little look. This is a very, very soft brush, and you do want a soft brush. If it's too hard, it's just going to take it all off again. That's quite a good one. Here's a good small one, but it's very, very coarse. I really need to give that brush a good clean, so that's not going to cut it today. I'm going to use this one here. I'm going to get a little bit of paint and on the palette, and then I'm going to just wipe it off on this tissue. It's not the best tissue. That's this one here. That's better. There we go. Always have a couple of like kitchen towels and things just lying around on the worktop. No, that one's actually quite wet. Back to the other one. Here we go. So the colours that I used straight out of the AK interactive modulation set, I used the straight up dark base. So I've got base, there we go, and then dark base. I might be inclined to use a slightly lighter one, or I could go back in with the original colour. I think if I went in with a slightly lighter one and just ever so lightly. Jeff says it will change it when you dry brush it. Bigger the better for the dry brush. Big, yeah. These are like the biggest, softest brushes that I've got that aren't in kind of like fan shapes, so I won't get very good coverage because there's not going to be the depth. If I went this way with this kind of fan brush, if I went down like that, then I just get like one small area being dry brushed. And if I went down like this to give it kind of a good width, coverage, then I don't have the depth of bristles to kind of drag paint along. So these brushes, though really wide, aren't thick enough essentially. They have their places. I use them for weathering with enamels and thinners and things. They're very good for that, but for dry brushing, rubbish. But like I say, more on dry brushing another time. Just going to give this a really good mix up, so I'm just going to stick it on the Easy 8 Waz machine. Please bear with me while my paint wazzes. There we go. Just going to put a couple of drops in here. That's a really light colour. Let's see how this affects one. Let's pick one. Well, I can only do one. I can only use the King Tiger. Is that colour too light? I think it might be. I think I might have to choose my tank as I do it. So if I'm actually going to go back to the standard base, yeah, that's a much better colour. Okay, wow, it's this paint. Just says I've got plenty here. Help yourself the next time you're around. Okay, cheers. Okay, into the next. There, I think this is a much better colour choice. Okay, gonna get a nice splodge on the end there, and then I'm gonna make sure that's thoroughly over the bristles. Now these are airbrush paints, so they're really watery, so you go through them quite quickly when dry brushing, and it's very easy to have quite a damp brush, so you've really got to make sure that there's no wet patches through the bristles. It's one of the problems of using airbrush paints all the time. I really like using them as a standard paint because they're really thin and you can do the whole two thin coats application quite well, but for this it's quite poor. I'm going to start at the front because it's going to be the brighter area anyway, so I'm just going to start on this little fender here. I've started very, very light, so I've taken actually a lot of paint out of the brush, so I might actually have to put a bit more into it, but you know, easier to put more paint on than it is to take paint away. So going back to the paint, I'm going to take so much out. Okay, that's a bit better. Quite difficult to see it at the end here because it's quite lighter, but as I move back towards the end of the tank it might start showing up a bit more. Stafford says I'm painting olive drab. So much olive drab. If you're painting allies, get used to it because it's everywhere. I love olive drab. I think it is a beautiful colour to work with. That really is changing this tank. It's quite a subtle difference there. I might actually come in with a bit of the lighter. Olive drab is a beautiful colour, especially if you're doing modulation paints. If you're painting these small tanks and you're painting my brush, you'll probably not, but that's not to say that you're not. Yeah, I love working with green. I think it's beautiful. Being quite rough with this. I don't want to be adding like a massive timestamp onto my painting. It's being quite effective actually. Quickly into the wheels. Just need a bit more. Only put a tiny drop in there. One Sherman down, 9 to go. Yeah, you got quite a few. I think I've got a slight blockage in this paint pot. It's coming out quite slow. Yeah, that looks pretty blocked to me. That's a problem for later. Oopsie daisy. It's working really well. It's a subtle difference, and I wonder if you could really see it on the camera, but before my eyes, it's really working. It's very, very good. Just really picking out those little details. Yep, happy with that. Over to the turret. That's quite a pool of paint there, isn't it? Just here. Not really into that. Bit rubbish. Never mind. Maybe I can hide it with lots of dry brushing. Sort of. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit more of this paint. It is quite blocked though. And I'm just going to do the cannon. And then we might take a quick break, I think. Oh, yeah, see, I squeezed that too hard because it had a block, and now paint is going everywhere. Well done. Let's get this tissue. This is why I always have tissues lying around. Join me on Discord after the show for the expletives that are going through my head right now. Okay, let's pop that down somewhere safe where it's not going to touch all my other stuff. Here, there we go. Cool. Douche. Right, back to the paint. Found the barrels of the cannons very difficult to stain, so there's a lot of like pooling on the sides or bits that are missed. Yeah, I tried quite hard to get that right, but it's just a difficult thing to stain. So I'm trying to see if I can hide it with dry brushing. Seems to be sort of working. Now that I've sort of lightened the whole thing with this normal colour here, I am actually thinking about going back to the lighter one, just to pick out some of the super details. It hasn't really like made it a stunning thing. It's not like, oh wow, that's been dry brushed. It's just ever so gently enhanced the details on there, so that they're easier to see. And if you didn't know there's been dry brushed, you wouldn't. If you didn't know it'd been dry brushed, you would go, oh look, dry brushing techniques, which is cool. So I'm just gonna move over to the lighter one. and I'm just sort of focusing on the areas where there are like raised details specifically. Yeah, that's cool. That's giving him something. Actually, do you know what? I'm just going to go for it. Now that I've kind of softened the whole thing with that mid-tone, I'm going to go all over with the brighter one. Yeah, now go lighter, says Jeff. Yeah, you're right. It's working. Not really into dry brushing techniques, but this is looking pretty cool. Yeah, that's proper cool. Compare that to that. That's really good. Okay, sold. So I basically soften up all the staining with the standard colour, and then I come back in and do some of the really cool details with the lighter colour. Nice, that's good, that's cool. Nope, gonna need more light colour. Here I go. I always give a little test just on the back of my hand, just to make sure that any damp patches, I'll get like a big smudge of paint. I'll be like, oh, that could have ruined the whole tank. Still might get the occasional one if I rush it, but you know, I don't really care. It's looking really good. Just the lightest of surface dry brushings in here, because I don't want to like take away the darker stain in the back there. So yeah, it just picks out the surface details, make them stand out a bit more. Stafford says, so dry brush Dunkelgelb, and then what are you using for the detail? So it's a whole modulation set, so I've got like a range of colours within the same, a range of shades within the same colour. So I've got Dunkelgelb base, which is basically the standard flat Dunkelgelb, and then I've got light base, so it's just one step higher. I've got 6 altogether, So yeah, it goes right up to shine, highlights. It goes right down then to dark base, and then shadow, which is just a very weird brown color. You can get very similar sort of effects by using things like Iraqi sand. That's quite bright, but whatever you've got to hand, really. Or just by mixing black or white into your standard color, just the tiniest amount will affect it. Again, I'm doing the underside here, not overly fussed about how the underside works, but there are a few little details and hatches and covers and things which is just quite nice to pick those out. And then the front of the underside of the glasses there, make sure that comes out. That's looking good. A little bit of a smear there. Let's just work on that. It's gone. That's looking proper good. If I wanted to, I could even go even brighter using the highlight color and pick out some, again, just some of some areas of interest. I like to, on my tanks, highlight these areas, so the corners, and then the front of the barrel, on the turret, sort of at this end here, and then it goes dark as it goes down towards the back of the tank. So I might even go in with a little bit brighter, because it's such a large tank compared to the others. But now if I compare this tank to the Panzer IV, you can see the difference in the two. It's made quite a difference, hasn't it? I like that. I really do like it. It's very good. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Dad. Staff says, thanks, because I'm already sick of painting green. Yeah, man. It's a lot of green if you're painting allies. Get used to it. Right. I think it's time we took a break. So, yeah. Oh, I've lost my mouse. Where's it gone? Cool. So, yeah, I'm going to finish with a cup of tea. I might go downstairs. I might even get a harder drink. I might go for a little bit of vodka. I do like a vodka in the evenings at the moment. So I might chug this tea down, which is now absolutely stone cold and minging. Might go get myself a harder drink. So if you're going to take a break now, go refocus your eyes, go for a walk or something, go stretch from the table. Always good to take a break. But whatever it is that you do, you should definitely, most certainly consider changing that paint water. Go do it. I don't know why it does that. I seem to have a loop in my intermission. Did that last week as well. Anyway, hope you had a great break. I actually had a phone call from my nan, which was lovely, saying hello. I did manage to change my paint water, and I also managed to go and get myself a nice little drink. Looks like a bit of a party drink, but it's a real mean one. So I'm going to go easy on that, because I think I made it a bit on the strong side as well. I'm also just, while I took the opportunity, sort of see if I could clean these dry brushes out. I'm normally pretty good at cleaning my brushes. I don't know why I've left this one here particularly grubby. I wonder if it's just it looks stained and it just happens to be a stiff brush. But I've got some Green Stuff World brush cleaner. Wonderful stuff this is. I've used it so many times before on the show, and I'm just trying to work it into the bristles right now, just trying to give it a bit of a clean, because it's quite nice to have a little range of brushes where I can do sort of different I have like a different sort of effect with a dry brushing technique on these tanks. Though to be honest, that one there did a really good job on that particular King Tiger. I'm actually really impressed with it. I'm not really into dry brushing anymore, but that's worked very well. Got none of that chalkiness on there, and I'm hoping that that's down to the paints being, quite wet, because obviously they're airbrush paints, so they're very watery. One of the tips, one of the tricks to dry brushing effectively and avoiding that that chalky appearance is by having a slightly a slight dampness to your bristles, only ever so slightly, like barely imperceptible, but it just stops the paint from clagging up on the bristles, which then transfers to the model. Of course, once you get that sort of dryness that has transferred to the model, then it builds up and builds up, very much like when I don't clean my airbrush out properly, a brush that I am notoriously bad at cleaning. One little bit of paint builds up, and of course then that leaves this horrible artifacting over your model, which leads to a chalky appearance. Wow, that was a very long description. But yeah, this tank here looks very good. I was hoping that I was going to be able to get to the other tanks to dry brush them tonight. But obviously I've just done a lot of washing, a lot of staining on them, and I didn't get a chance to go and get my partner's hairdryer because I was on the phone to my nan. So anyway, let's go back over to the workbench, and you can see the mess that I have made on my mat. Here it is. So yeah, this is just this brush. It's quite a short, wow, that's difficult. Short bristled brush. So I think it is just a stiffer brush than normal. However, the suds, the lather that's coming out of this is slightly greyed, and I wonder if I've used it for like silver dry brushing or just grey dry brushing. I've done a lot of grey stuff with bases for my Tyranids and things like that, so it might be that I just didn't clean it out properly from one of those. Just giving it a rinse out now. What I like to do is I just kind of like to pick up the stuff here, sort of the mess on the table, with water in the bristles, and then just kind of work that water in now, just kind of giving the brush a bit of a rinse out. I need to change my water again now, but never mind. It's a really good brush cleaner. I don't know if it's the best brush cleaner out there. It was just, I was shopping from Green Stuff World one day, and I thought, you know, I'm just gonna pick this up just to see what it's like. I like to try different products out there. It has softened it up quite a bit, which is really good. Where's the other tissue that I had earlier? Let's wipe that up there. Excellent. That was really quite rigid, really quite stiff earlier, and now it's really softened up. It's not the best condition brush. Wow, I'm struggling today. This is I haven't touched the alcohol yet, honest. This is one that's been used for all sorts of terrain or all sorts of stuff, so the bristles are quite worn on the end. Still got quite a decent flat edge, but you can see there's a lot of wear and tear on the inside layers of bristles there. But it's not that stiff. It's actually it's loosened up quite a bit. I'm going to give it another pass. All I do is I just put a blob of this on my mat, just there, and I just work it in, and it should loosen up most of, if not all, of the old paint that's in there. It's really good at breaking it down. What you obviously want to avoid when you're painting is building up paint that gets so close to the ends of the bristles that it comes up into the ferrule, because it's going to work its way up inside where that ferrule clamps down on the bristles, and that basically starts making the bristles splay apart, which, especially if you've got like a detail brush, and an expensive one as well, then it's just going to ruin them. Dry brush, not so bad, because some people like a slightly splayed bristle on a dry brush, especially if it's just for doing like large amounts of scenery where you don't really care about the quality so much. I do like to look after my brushes now that I've sort of learned to do it better, if you like. So when I started buying expensive brushes, my brush care became more prominent, because some of my brushes cost, you know, nearly £20. That is much softer, so yeah, save the brush. Still a bit sudsy. Let's give them a bit of a rinse out. Okay, and I've got another one here as well. Where has it gone? Here it is. This is I think this is sable, and this one is normally very, very soft, and I can see there's a lot of grey paint in there, a lot of build-ups, very claggy. It's all clinging together. It reminds me of like cheap mascara. That's kind of what that reminds me of. I wear only the finest of mascaras. Thank you. I'll put a big old blob down there. That was actually quite a bit bigger than I wanted, but never mind. And again, I'm just going to work it in. And I can see by the way that the bristles are splaying that it's not. You can see the brush isn't in top quality. This is a good brush. This one. It's not the most expensive brush. It's just a good quality brush. So I'm just going to work it up to a lather and just try and clean it out. Doesn't matter if I don't get them clean today. Like I say, it's not like I'm going to not going to be able to get the other tanks dry brush today, but they are looking, or that one tiger there, the king tiger, is looking very, very smart. I'm comparing him against the Yag tiger beside him. It's brilliant, loving it. Just trying to loosen up all the rubbish that's in those bristles there. That's good. Now there is, I can't remember the actual name of the brand, but there's a very popular brush cleaner out there. It comes in a tub, and it's basically a brush soap. And I think that is one of the better ones out there on the market. I think it's Winsor & Newton do one very, very similar, and it comes in a tin. And I've heard reports that the tin seems to get affected by moisture and can have corrosion like rust, and that can get into the soap and kind of stain the colours and get into your brush, which obviously isn't the best thing in the world. Apparently it is a very good brush cleaner, but there's another one out there which is like a solid block which what you lather up into the tin. I can't remember the name of it. I think that one, because of the lack of rusting, I think is the preferred popular brand. This is just something that I bought when I was buying some paints from Green Stuff World. If you follow Green Stuff World, you will know that they have just literally today, I got a little message through on the Easy 8 Facebook account saying that they have just acquired themselves a very large work warehouse. Because when they first started, they were just making some steampunk accessory supplies and a few modelling putties and things like that. And now 8 years on, here they are stocking and providing the world around with their own products and all sorts of stuff. And they're a wonderful, wonderful company. And it's really great to see them succeeding. So Green Stuff World, if you ever see this, well done, mate. Mates. Lots of you, I suppose. Nice good old team over there. With over a 4,000 square foot unit to be working in. Things can only get better for them. And they make some wonderful products. This is really loosened up, but I can see that there is still quite a lot of grubby old paint stuff in there. So this one's going to need a second pass. But this is an Easy 8 brush cleaning club. This is Easy 8 painting club. So I'm going to clean that up, put these brushes to a side, and I'll come back to them a little bit later on. Excuse me. Just nice to make sure that they were attended to. So this tank is still got wet bits in underneath it. I keep putting my thumb underneath the tank and leaving a great big thumbprint in it. That is absolutely rubbish of me. But underneath, in the wheels, etc., it is still quite damp in there because I've done a heavy sludge wash. So I'm not going to be able to come in and do a dry brush on them. However, compare this one, I know it's got camouflage on it, to the King Tiger that I've just dry brushed. My autofocus is turned off. But yeah, the effect on that dry brush, whilst being very, very limited, has really paid dividends to the quality of this miniature. It really stands out, highlights everything that needs to be highlighted without any kind of chalkiness on there. It's really worked well. Thanks, Dad, for telling me to do it. Great stuff. So I will do that with all of them, even the ones that are camouflaged. The Yagged Panther here, it's actually almost dry, but there's tiny little bits of paint in there that if I catch that with a dry brush, it would affect it. So I might camouflage this one because those large open spaces, they aren't working for me. So I might come back in and do it again. The Stug, because of the way that I stained this one, is much cleaner. This one's got some large areas, large spaces on there that not as large as the Yagged Panther for sure, but this one came out really well, and this is one of the first ones that I started with, I think, and it just went well. I took my time with it. Underneath, rushed it, but you know, it's underneath, who cares? And then there's the Panzer IV, which is looking really good. This one again is almost at a point where I could dry brush it, but there's a few bits in there that are still damp, and if I catch that with a bristle on a dry brush, I'll ruin the whole thing. So perhaps I'll come back to those later on. Kez says the Masters dry brush cleaner you might be thinking of. That's it. Yes, it comes in a little tub, and on the top it looks like an old-fashioned style gentleman's beard balm or something like that. Looks very smart and pretty in a little beige tub here. The Masters brush cleaner. It's really good stuff. From what I've heard, I've not used it. And then during the break, Stafford was talking with Jeff. Jeff says, Staff, if you need to dry brush your olive shell, just add a little sand colour to your olive, just a little amount. Yes, it's not. But adding white in there is going to have a really adverse effect to any colour that you put in. But by adding like slightly sandier colours, even like Iraqi sand, which I've got here, I just happen to have some Iraqi sand. This is quite an off-white. If you were to add that, just a tiny little drop into your colours, into your greens, it will give you a slightly paler version of it. It's a really good idea rather than just adding straight white. Cool. I'm gonna have a drink. Cheers. Yeah, that's a strong one. Wow. So, moving away from the tanks. Ah, good music break. I do that a lot lately. Kessin says it is good stuff. I use it. The Masters brush cleaner. Cool, nice. It's good to know that people do use it on the show. Moving on to the Tyranids. Moving away from the tanks. If you want to see more of the tanks, I will put more stuff up on Facebook. I have not been active on Instagram lately. I just like to put I don't like to put works in progress on there. I like to put finished things on there, but that means that that area becomes quite inactive. So I'm just going to start putting more things on Instagram. So yeah, watch this space. Instagram will get more active because it was really popular when I used it a lot more. So if you want to keep up with the tanks, I will do more stuff, but not on the show because, like I say, I want to kind of not make it stagnant. Moving on to Tyranids then. This is my Trygon, a top-down view of it anyway. I was doing this one a little while ago because it was a really big gribbly that I got really excited about. It was given to me by Leslie, who normally watches the show, but Leslie's one of those people who isn't joining us this evening because he's quite poorly. Hope you feel better, Leslie. I was really grateful to Leslie, who just basically gave me a massive box of Tyranids. Just didn't want them anymore, wanted to give them to a good home. They certainly found that. I blocked all the colours in. I did 2 projects at the same time, and well, we all know that I'm ADD through and through, and I struggle to keep to a particular project. But I really thrive on having lots of projects on the go at the same time. It means I've always got something to look forward to come back to, but sometimes I do get quite depressed that I'm not keeping up with it. Anyway, this is the one that I'm going to be moving on to now. Because Brenda is done, I'm really happy with Brenda. I say done, there's actually, looking at it this evening, there's actually a couple of things that I do want to do. The base definitely needs doing. That is something that I know that I need to do on there. But these little forearm pieces, they just need a bit more attention. I just want to kind of drop a little bit of black wash into these little pink vent things on there just to make them pop a little bit more. And I'm just going to try and colour them out a little bit better. All the spikes are all rendered on them, which was outstanding for ages. There's a couple of little spikes on the backs here. They're rendered in now. Nice colours on there. Some spikes underneath. They're all done. The eyes are done. The teeth are done. I really like these claws. That was a big decision as a part of the show a few months ago now. Just to make something more of these big crab claws, because they were quite hard to do in the grey colour. This then led me to thinking, with all of my Tyranids, I've been painting all of their claws grey. If it was armour, if it was like that kind of bone material, I was doing it grey. I've got a Broodlord over here as well. Here we go. Blow the dust off. All the claws on him, grey. It works, but there are some problems with it. It means that what can happen is it just kind of gets dominated, even though there's a lot of yellow on it as well. It kind of gets dominated by this grey colour. And when it starts to, when you get this sort of feature down the bottom where it's walking on a piece of carapace, its toe claws get like lost in the effect of the grey. I wanted to keep them grey because the colour scheme comes from an image someone drew, like a cutenid on Instagram or somewhere like that, or on Pinterest. I loved it, copied it, but I think for the models, having the claws done in a bone colour will just really give it something more, makes it look a bit more natural to what we recognise as natural. On this one, it's got a little bit of bone colour on this kind of toothy thing on its tongue, the spike there, and his teeth are done bone. But what really does work is if we look at the Trygon here, on the tail, I did it here. It's quite a big feature, so I wanted it to kind of stand out a bit more, and that worked really well, and it really worked very well on Brenda's crab claws here. So I've made a decision to go back through all of my Tyranids, and I will start doing all of their arm claws in this sort of claw bone colour here. It won't take very long. It's a very easy effect to achieve. It just means that I've got to go through and paint all of the claws in the bone colour, and then I actually hit it with a bit of Seraphim Sepia. And then sometimes, especially if it's a bigger deal like this area here, right at the bottom, so just put a little bit of Agrax in there just to give it a little bit of depth. And I think that this is one of the first times I did the effect. It was actually on this claw here. I think it worked really, really well, and it just gives it something more snippy, you know. So that's one of the things I'm going to be doing this evening. Moving forwards with this particular model here, I've got to make sure that I've done all of the grey, blocking it all in nice and properly. I think I did actually get around to that. I think it is all blocked in. But just making sure that I haven't missed anything. As I'm going around, I'm seeing a few things where the yellow's really stark, and that means that I haven't done a good enough job with the Seraphim Sepia, which is the colour that I put over it to wash it. Back when I first started using Seraphim Sepia on the model, was one of the first times I started using Seraphim Sepia. And since then, as I've been learning with the tanks and other washes, I've got better at controlling them. So I did a sludge wash on this one, and I just made sure that I didn't go too heavy, so the yellow would show up. If I go too heavy with the sludge wash, what will happen is with this little piece of terrain here, is it actually becomes more brown than yellow, and I think that the effect is lost. I'm actually going to repaint this one. I did a whole load of these when I was painting some Termagants ages and ages ago. That's yellow with Agrax very heavily sludged over the top. And at the time when I thought I just wanted to kind of get through and do all my horde painting together, I thought this was really effective. Actually, it's rubbish and I can do better. So I'm going to completely repaint this. This is like a little hive node thing that they started supplying with Gene Stealer models. I just happen to have a whole bucket of them. I don't know where they came from. I just got a load of them. They've got some little teethy claw things in there. They're like some weird sort of nodules sticking out of the ground with lots of slimy tentacle things coming off around them. I painted them yellow because that was the fleshy colour of my Tyranids, but you can see that the yellow, it is nowhere near, it's not a match for the yellow. It's the same yellow, it's exactly the same colour, but a sludge wash of Agrax with a sludge wash, a more delicate sludge wash of Seraphim, the difference is very, very noticeable. So I'm going to repaint this one, and I'm actually going to put this on Brenda's base because it's just going to make it look like a bit of Tyranid terrain just under there. she's so hunched over, it's very difficult to see, but you know, she will look cool for photographs and things like that. And I really want there to be lots of Tyranid terrain on my Tyranid bases, because the idea is that the Tyranids, as they consume a planet, they overwhelm it, and you know, they kind of create their own flora that becomes like, you know, over the top. It consumes everything. It becomes a creature in its own right. So if a Tyranid force is doing really, really well at what they do, then naturally there's going to be a lot of it. So I kind of wanted to have that represented on the bases. I've spoken in the past about the red weed effect and things like that, haven't I? Cares comes in and says, could you not dry brush it with yellow to make it pop again? I could, but actually for the time that it would take me to paint, you know, dry brush it, it probably would just be just as fast for me to just stick a layer of yellow paint back on there again. I still think that it would be too... I still think that the colour that you see here will still show through a bit too much, so it's just a case of just giving it a quick spray. Not going to do it tonight because my airbrush, like I said earlier, needs a clean. I did clean it out. It's just, you know, it's an old airbrush now and I haven't used it very well, so it just needs a bit of attention. So what I really need to do with my Tyranids is I really need to learn a decent way of doing tongue colours. I do mouth colours by sort of overwhelming the inside of the mouth with a Caribberg Crimson, which I use quite extensively on my Tyranids when it comes to all these pinky colours. This is just an off-white colour with a sludge wash of this over the top. Again, delicately applied, so I don't get any pooling, but you kind of get this sort of nice effect where it's kind of made all the muscles, I suppose it's muscle at the end there, kind of stand out and run into the recesses. It's a really nice colour for it. I use it on the Zone Throw Brains. I've used it on some other bits and pieces here just to kind of break up the monotony of colours, whatever this is, some sort of weird springy muscle sinew. Between all of these spikes, sort of where they kind of join on the body, there will be some sinews and things on there. On the tail, I know that my focus isn't working very well today, I apologise. I put the wrong setting on. There's little gaps between the spikes, and if you can see that little yellow bit in there, that's going to be painted with this as well. So, yeah, that's what I do in the mouth. So I paint the inside of the mouth with this. And then I wanted the tongue to be different. I wanted the tongue to be darker. And as I started playing around with darker colours, it just looked like I'd gone too heavy with the Caribberg Crimson. It didn't really have a good effect. So I started playing with purples. The purple is difficult. It's a difficult colour to achieve. I've never really been very good at painting purple. So any ideas, I'm all ears. Any ideas, I'm all ears. I do have over here my old Trygon. Tervigon. It's not a Tervigon. Tyranifex, there we go, which I bought from eBay for a steal because it was all completely madly painted and put together, and I just kind of broke it apart, and eventually it just became like a trial piece. Eventually one day I will strip it down and then I'll make him join my force. I have been playing around with different colours extensively on this beast because I wanted to do something with alien sack things for weapons. I finally, after some years now of trying to get the colour that I wanted to, think I pretty much achieved it on here. But it's got a really big tongue that isn't hindered by teeth, so I'm going to have a little practice at painting tongue colours on there. I haven't really got very good at it. What I'm thinking about doing is playing around with flesh colours, which is what I played around with on here. That's basically a flesh colour, basic flesh colour with Caribberg Crimson, and I'm thinking about putting a little bit of Drutchy Violet in there, which is a really dark violet wash. This one's kind of almost gone solid now, so I need to get some more of this. I very rarely use it. It's a very potent colour. It gets everywhere, it dries almost instantly, and it stains like a bum. But in here, for kind of just picking out the definition between... I like the fact that I've got a bit of overspray on this arm. It looks kind of like it's sore, I suppose, but I want there to be a little, just like an outline just along the edge of the arm, and I think this colour would be really good for that. So I use it limited, but I do have a massive pot of it. I spilled it everywhere some years ago, and it still stains. So yes, you can also see some other areas where in the past I played with purple. I just made these little tentacles and stuck them into little sockets where there were big spikes in the torso of the model. And there was just these big craters that didn't look very good, so I just stuck some milliput tentacles in there. Some of them look really cool, others not so great. It does make their model look very busy. I kind of like that though. Unfortunately, some of the tentacles don't have ends on them, so they probably need to be redone. Tried to paint them purple or pink, and then kind of put a purple stain on them, and I did not achieve it at all well on this model. Since doing this, I've learned that pink with a purple wash over them does tentacles very, very well, as I've done it on my spore mines. Go back and have a look at Instagram and Facebook for those. They came out really well, and that was a community effort as well. There were like 3 different stages that I went through, which ones worked the best. So that shows you what purple looks like. I've tried to do a darker purple on the Trygon's tongue in here, and it sort of works, but it's very difficult to get in there and paint it. Now you can see that I've done the teeth. I kind of finished the teeth off in there. So I think at one point I was quite happy with this tongue, but I just think it can be better. So if you've got ideas on how to paint a good tongue that stands out from like a dark red inside mouth area, yeah, I'd love to know. I'd love to know. I want it to be quite a feature, because it's all snake, big claw, big mouth, claws. I want the tongue to be quite a visual thing. Years ago, when I started doing Tyranids, I painted them all green, and that looked really cool. And I did the Red Terror, which is one of my favourite models back in the day. It's very dated now, but the red model looked very good, but I couldn't do the inside of the mouth red because it would just be lost against the red, because it's red. So I did the inside of the mouth blue, and then glossed it. It looked really cool. Looking back over that, I actually stripped that model down. It looked very bad compared to what I can paint now, but back then it was an effect that I was really happy with. So yeah, blue. I don't think blue would work in this. I just think it's a colour that might clash. I don't know. So any ideas? I'm quite happy to have a go now. Paint it on this tongue here and see what happens. And then with this model, what do I need to do? All the grey is all blocked in. I'm not going to do the claws white just yet. I want to get the kind of armour parts on the top painted, or their greys first, because I need to go over, like I did on the Carnifex, and I need to do this sort of shaded rendered effect on them. There's several ways I can achieve that. I'm going to have a go at doing it in a different way than what I've done in the past. What I've done in the past with Brenda, the Carnifex, was use this shader with the airbrush, and that gives me some very interesting effects. It stays wet for a very long time because it's an ink, and I can sort of blend it with the greys. I've got a few more greys as well, so I could do a lot more highlights on here. Bigger model will deserve a lot more highlights anyway. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to a conventional black paint, which is what I was doing with the Carnifex, just to finish off some of the spikes, and just see if I can I'm getting a little bit better with the airbrush, a bit of control, and just see if I can spray into the recesses some black, and then use the greys to kind of sort of blend them out. And just compare the difference between using the black paint to the black ink shader. So yes, that's where I'm at with that. She does need a really good dusting down. So yeah, any ideas on tongue, colours, effects, techniques? I'm all ears. I'd love to know what you think. If you've got any opinions watching the show in retrospect later on, then you can put it in the comment section just down there. You can hit me up on over Facebook, where I will take loads of photos as we move forwards. I'm going to have another drink. Oh, that is tasty but very strong. Wow. Okay. So, let's give her a dust down. I like to use this big flat fan brush for dusting. It's got good stiff, fake, like a synthetic fake bristles, which gives a good real flick. Just going to get him into all the areas where the dust and hair will settle. It's not a very dusty house, this, but obviously recently had a cat who would molt everywhere and would drag fur in. Very sad that she's not in the house anymore. I just went downstairs earlier to go make my drink, and yeah, it was very, very quiet, very sad. I miss my cat. Time heals, but it's a shame. It's a shame. Now to fair that I do pull out of the carpet, I'm sure I could clone her. With my Easy 8 cloning device. Jeff says, same colour as the sack thing. You reckon? You reckon? And then what, maybe go a little bit heavier with the red colour perhaps? I really struggle with that sack thing, and I'm really happy now with what I've got. I've tried all sorts of things. I tried to go for like a pallid green colour to make it almost look rotten. I just wanted to make it look grotesque. I wanted to make it look like something that made it feel very unnaturally abhorrent to look at. When you look at a creature that is, you know, dangerous or scary or repulsive, when you look at it you go like, oh, and it kind of just gives you a chill or kind of turns your stomach a little bit. In the same sort of way, I'm trying to think of something that would make you think what I'm trying to think. If you were to go Google and search zombie virus in snails, you'll see exactly what I mean. There's an infection that little invertebrates can get, snails and ants and things like that, and it's just insane what happens to them, poor little creatures. There's absolutely no need for this parasitic virus that they can get at all, and it must be horrendous, and the visual effects are so striking and obvious and repulsive. When you look at it, it's really quite stomach churning. This is coming from a guy who's got quite a strong stomach with these sorts of things, and I was just trying to kind of emulate that feeling with the weapon sacks on these creatures. Yeah, and I think with this colour, I think I'm there. I still feel like I could have done with like a pallid green colour in there, but every attempt on it just didn't work. Just didn't work at all. Sack thing, but high gloss. This is high gloss as well. Look at that. That's cool. I might actually give it a slight wash with a satin wash, just to kind of give it, just so it doesn't all look completely and utterly shiny. So it's just, you know, breaks it up a little bit. But yeah, I was very happy with it. It does work very well. Okay, do you know what? I'm going to give it a go. I'll give it a go. Let's put the Trygon away. Put it just over there for now, and we will come back to you. She is now dusted down. Let's put my dry brush collection away. I need to level my table, my desk. I've got some time coming up soon. I might be able to do that, but everything wants to roll in one direction now. Okay, so maybe I should actually just give this a bit of a brush down. She's been sat there as well. Okay, here we go. Cool. So the colour that I used was just simple flesh from Vallejo. There's a whole range of flesh colours I've got here. Dark flesh tone, burnt flesh, barbarian flesh, bronze flesh, dwarf skin, elf tone, pale flesh, and dead flesh. That was the colour I tried using, this pallid green. Yeah, so I've got a whole row of skin colours, and then there's just this horrible, basic, childish skin colour that I could never see myself using. Use it on this, it works really well. I just thought, oh, I'll give it a go, because it just seems to be a colour that I don't think I'll ever use. It's just going to be sat there otherwise, so, well, it works really well. Oh, yeah, that is strong. Gotta get drunk on Discord. Not too drunk, I am working tomorrow. Okay, solid lump drying up there. I'll put a little drop in here. Connoisseurs will notice that I did not waz this. I could not be bothered. Right, I will use my Army Painter brush just because it's quite a narrow set of bristles and I'm going to need to get inside the mouth. And my Kolinsky brush has just got quite a big belly, so moving into the mouth is going to be quite difficult with that brush. Because this model isn't anywhere near what it's going to be when it's finished, I'm going to just kind of slap it on. I'm going to try and be neat and tidy, but not overly fussed really. And it is a really cheap looking colour, but obviously it has its place. perhaps using some of the different flesh colours might be a good idea. Perhaps I'll have a little experiment with all the other fleshes, see which works. Oh, the gun is so big it's casting a shadow. We're coming up now to the last 15 minutes of the show, so yeah, be aware. If you have been working on a project this evening, would love to know what it is. Please do let me know. I'm fascinated by all the things that you do, and I'm genuinely interested in the projects that you're working on. So please do drop it into the comment section. If you're watching this back later on, if you're in the live chat, if you feel inclined to do so, let us know. I want to know what you've been working on, how well you're doing. Or if you're just sitting there chilling out with a beer. Some people like to do that too. And if you have been working on something, I genuinely, I really do like watching and looking through all of the pictures that you put up on Facebook. So don't forget that Facebook exists. Take photos of what you do. There's been lots of mini tanks going up on there lately, mostly from Stafford. So yeah, I'm inspiring people to spend all of their money. It's a strange old colour. Just gonna move out of the frame a minute because I can use my light a little bit better just to get into the back of the mouth there. Now it's gone on quite thin, so it does look like just like an off-white at the moment, but you can see that it is quite a pinky colour when it's not bleached out under my lights. There's quite a pinky colour in there. So yeah, perhaps I'll have a little play around with all the different flesh tones. I've got quite an orangey looking one, which is the elf flesh tone. I've got a slightly more browner one. Oh no, it's actually a more orangey or browner, which is dwarf skin. That might be an interesting one to play with. I've got a bronze flesh tone, which looks like it's separated a little bit. Let's give that a bit of a waz. Yeah, it's very bronzy. I don't think that's the colour I'm really going for. Maybe it is though. Barbarian flesh, which could also be done with a bit of a waz. This one's a very sort of dark brown sort of skin colour, which again I don't think is really the colour that I'm looking for on this particular topic. But painting different flesh colours and things is something that I really want to explore soon. Hopefully when my timetable at work settles down a little bit, something that I can do. Luke and I, Luke is not present tonight, but it's something that we've talked about in the past, that we would like to actually do like a proper Easy 8 workshop on flesh tones. And obviously skin colours are as varied as anything, so it'd be really cool to get stuck into that as a project. There we go, look at that, that's really sort of browny colour, isn't it? Weird colour, that one. Which again, don't think that's really what I'm after. And then I've got dark flesh tone. Let's give that a good mix. I think those last 3 or 4 I could probably stay away from for this. Yeah, okay, cool. And then moving down the spectrum, I've got pale skin, which is very, very pinky. That could be quite fun to explore. Let's have a little mix on that one. That's actually like a real soft candy pink. No, not a candy pink. Pastel pink compared to the squid pink, which is very candy. That might be a way to move forwards. Let me just pop my paintbrush down there. We'll clean that one out in a second. If I compare that to squid pink, which is, if squid pink is the analog to tentacle pink from Citadel, so it makes you subconsciously want to paint all tentacles with it, which is what I did. You can see that's very purpley sort of colour. Compare it to the pale flesh. This one's very pinky. When you bring it to this one, they're very different. This is almost Palmer violet colour, this squid pink colour. I realised that my my autofocus isn't really helping there. So yeah, pale flesh and then squid pink. There's a very big difference. You can see it better now that my lights aren't bleaching everything out. Yeah, some things to think about, right? And then I try to move purples. Purples are the wrong colour. Purple is not where I want to be with this. Not at all. So pale flesh, maybe. Pallid flesh or dead flesh? No. No, certainly not. Jeff says, trying to price the next job, but big bocage build. Very big. Might need some help working it out if you're around at some point. You could have some brushes then. Yes, absolutely. I've got actually some time, not off, but I've got some freer time coming up, so I could definitely come down and help you work through that. If you don't know already, that Jeff is my dad and has his own business with Purple Lion Creations, where he is a very talented terrain builder and does bespoke one-off builds for people all over the world. And I'm actually very jealous of his skills. Sometimes I do help him. If you are so inclined and you want to have a little look, then pop over to Purple Lion Creations over at Facebook. There is a link just down there alongside John from Out of This World Minis and Models, and a few other people who I like to spread the word of. There's Graham Henderson, who has Wet Palette Miniatures as a really good painting service. Definitely go and check those guys out. There's also Chimera War Gaming. You should definitely go and check those guys out. Shout out to all of them. Do please go and click on those links. I share them for a reason. They are fantastic people who offer really good services and are just generally inspiring people to look at. So yeah, go and have a little look. Cool. Another drink before the end of the show. Try and take it easy on that one because that is strong. This is virtually dry, so I'm going to come back in now with another coat. I've got to wash that brush out. Did not treat that very well at all. There we go. Can I come in with another coat? I'm actually quite tempted to give the pink flesh, the pale flesh colour a try, just to keep it away from this colour, because this colour is obviously really good and works really well, but actually have it similar, but still slightly different. So this is a good colour to base it with, trying to get away from that original base colour there. Whatever god-awful purple I'd used, and then dry brushed it with the flesh colour. This has been a very helpful model, actually. If you can hear that in the background, the rain has started and it's coming down very heavy, and I'm in the roof of my house. It sounds like a tin can. Okay, cool. Looks almost white. Really stark, stands out quite a bit, doesn't it? On this gun, because it's so big, this is the sort of effect that I was trying to sculpt onto the Carnifex's guns. I didn't do a very good job of it, but I'll get better as I go. I will paint these sort of features the same colour as the gun, and it will kind of tie that in and kind of give it a theme, but it will also make it look a bit more nasty, vulgar. Yeah, just a bit gross, right? Let that dry for a second. Nearly washed my brush out in my vodka drink. Right. What colours to do this with? I do have some contrast paints. I've got the contrast Volupus Pink, which might be a good colour to use. I don't think this is very ready. I think this is more purpley of a colour, and it's pink because being a contrast paint, it glazes rather than coats. Yeah, let's have a little look. Let's play with this colour. It's quite ready there, but I'm sure that when I put it onto a white background, it goes quite purpley. If I just paint it onto my little palette here. Oh, I don't know. Oh no, there, I'm spreading it out. That is very purple, very, very purple. I don't know if that's the colour that I want. Things to experiment with. Yeah, as I stretch that out, that moves away from the red spectrum and goes right into the purples. And that is definitely something that I want to avoid. But over the flesh tones, it might work. Who knows? Okay. I'm going to move into a pale flesh. My lights are so bleachy, I think the little subtle differences that I might achieve here by using different types of flesh colours, they'll probably be lost. So what I'll do, as I always do, is I'll take some photos for you. I'll put them up on Facebook probably tomorrow, because there's a few things that need to dry this evening. I'll put them up on Facebook so you can have a good old look at them and explore what it is that I've done today. I'm going to put a little drop in there just to see how different that is compared to it. That's very pinky. Do I want a pale flesh colour? Do I want a darker flesh colour? What's the elf flesh tone? A skin tone. I'm going to be exploring some really different colours over the next few days. That's a very different colour. It's almost a sandy colour. I like. So, I think... Do you know what? I'm actually going to go with the elf tone rather than the pale tone. I'm going to go straight over that normal flesh colour that I put in there. And then I'm going to do one side of the tongue with Carroburg Crimson, which is the red shade that I use. And then I'll do the other side in that contrast paint, Volupus Pink. Because it is very purpley, but with a warmer tone underneath, it might transform that colour. And I'll only find out by having a go. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Oh, I am. It's gonna happen. Come on. Oh, I hate the limbo. It's not happening. I like this elf tone. This is the first time I've really used it. It's really nice to kind of explore the colours in your palette that you've never really used. We always buy like a paint set, and there's always a couple of paints that we never really pull out and do anything with. So here's my suggestion. Get those paints out and have a good old look, because you might be surprised. I like that. It's a nice little colour. I don't know... I don't paint very much human skin colour, so I can't ever see me really using them very much. So it's nice to have a little project now to kind of do something with them. It's just going to take a second to dry. I'm really recently inspired to pick up the Tyranids again lately, because the new Tyranid codex is either imminently due or has already been released, and I'm just behind the times. There are some massive changes coming in the book, and it's generally been very well received, which is always good. Tyranids over previous editions, not the most recent ones, but in previous editions, have really suffered in terms of rules and things. So it's nice to have a competitive rule set again. and I was inspired by Withersea, who was with us Mellowbrook, who was with us last week, who was talking to me about the recent Eldar Codex. We went through that book together out of the show, and it's a really competitive Eldar list. That's really good. Eldar are my ancient opponent from way back when I first started playing the game, and it's nice to have a book that's going to come out and try to rival it a little bit, which is going to be really good fun. So I'm really keen to get my Tyranids back up and running. I've taken a good departure from 40k over the last sort of 12 months, and it's nice to kind of be enthused to want to come back and play it strong. So I really want to get my Tyranids painted up now. I'm just trying to get faster, but trying to keep a good level of standard, because I'm rubbish basically. So as soon as this dries, we're going to hit it with some colour. I don't think I'm going to be able to achieve that today. That would be quite unrealistic. I will stain those colours over the next few hours or even tomorrow, and then I will hit us up with some photos on Facebook so that you can go see it. So yeah, I'm going to leave the workbench behind. It's been a really productive evening. I've learned a lot. I've learned that dry brushing little tanks is a really good way to get details done fast. I've learned that I can put my thumb in paint several times in a row and still not learn from that process. Yeah, Stafford has learned that painting so much green is really boring. I really like it, but I use an airbrush. That's why I bought an airbrush, is because I do a lot of horde painting. Yeah, really happy with these little tanks and the way that they're starting to turn out. And I will always keep them on the side of my workbench so that it kind of allows me to break something up. Over the next few days, I'll be just kind of finishing those little tanks off. I'm going to be doing some little bits and pieces for my Carnifex's base to get that finally completely done as a model. And then moving on to the Trygon, which is going to be cool. And just using this monstrosity. It's a big old model, isn't it? Taking the mini out of miniature. Yeah, I'm going to be painting the tongue on this fella to explore those options. Had a great time. It's always nice to come here at the end of a busy week. I always look forward to coming here, so thank you ever so much for your company. I really am interested in seeing what you've done, so if you have been working on stuff tonight or just in the week in general, then do put photos up over Facebook, because I would love to see them. Let's get talking about them and share your victories, or help you out of those ditches that we often find ourselves in. Accumulating masses and masses of unpainted grey plastic. Don't forget that we are not just here on YouTube, we are on Facebook as well. There it is, Facebook. We're on Instagram, and we're going to be over at Discord at the Easy 8 after party. After this show, I will take a quick 2-minute break, and then I'm going to be over there. If people are painting, then I will paint with you. If you're not, then I'll just sit and chill out on a video chat. And if people are interested in playing video games, I'm also going to be playing video games. I've got the whole night to waste away with you guys, which would be great. If you do like what we do here on this show, then please don't forget to like, follow and subscribe. Every little bit helps this show grow. I can make it better, and I want to make it way better. I have a lot of fun. Anyway, I've had a great night. I hope you guys have a great week. In the meantime, keep on painting, stay safe, stay kind, and I'll see you soon. Take care for now. See you soon. Bye bye. That's a strong vodka.